I want to talk to mothers today because in my work as a doctor working in a rehabilitation center, sometimes we admit patients who come from all kinds of families, and I have taken notice of patients who come from single mother families. Their fathers passed away when they were young, or their mothers were never married, so there were no fathers to talk about, or they were abandoned at some point by their fathers, and so they have been brought up by mothers, and they are in addiction to alcohol or drugs, and so they have come to our center, Fountain of Hope Treatment Center, Siokimau, and we've noticed some peculiarities about these patients, which when we analyze as professionals point to a problem with upbringing, which mothers could have made better if they knew better. And for this reason, I would like to talk to mothers about what not to do when they are bringing up their children as single mothers. And I will focus mainly on the male child, because most of these children, statistically, they're not children, but they're children to their mothers. Most of these patients, let me call them patients, are usually male, and they are brought up by a single mother. So I will talk more about that, but most of what I can say can be extrapolated to even the girl child brought up by a single mother. Before I delve into this any further, as always, I would like to find out if you've subscribed to our channel, Dr. BMS, and if you haven't, please subscribe. And if you like this video, share it with a friend. If you know a neighbor, a person, a single mother who is struggling, share this with them, because it's in sharing that you help them become better and we make the channel grow as well. So single mothers struggling to bring up their children, mainly sons, and then these sons later on start abusing drugs, alcohol, cannabis, or miraa in our context. These children end up in the rehabilitation center, and when they come in, we assess them so that we know what the problems are, the origins of these problems, and we try to find out how we can reverse these problems as we continue to treat them. So in our assessment of many of these children from single mothers, mainly sons, like I've said, we have identified a number of characteristics which point to an upbringing that had a problem right from when these children were young. And I would like in this video to discuss some of these things that the single parent, usually the single mother, does, which later on in life may make this child abuse drugs or have other behavioral problems, or not be able to mature and be an independent adult, to start a family of their own and to live as an independent, responsible son. The first one I want to talk about, because we just have a short time to delve into this, I call it over-consulting or over-confiding in children. Mothers, do you find sometimes a situation where you want everything you want to do in the house, you want to ask your child, can we cook this? Can we go and see this? Can we not do this? And the child saying yes or no counts for a lot. And you negotiate with them, oh yeah, let's just cook this and not the other. Don't refuse to eat when I cook. Well, That is fine when you have discussion with your children in your house, but it has to have a limit. There are some things as a parent you can decide and do without necessarily consulting your children, especially when children are still very young, okay? If you feel that these children cannot go to a certain party, a sleepover, to be with certain friends, you can make that decision and say, I don't want you to go and do this. And you don't have all the time to explain the reasons why and to seek the agreement of the children. Because when you do that, sometimes you are over-consulting and you are elevating these children to start to see like they are adults, when in fact they are not. And so if they tell you, I think I should go, if they refuse what you are suggesting, you give in. So children then can start indulging in behavior which is inappropriate for them, not because they would have done it, but because you are giving them leeway by asking all the time and seeking their yes for everything, yet they are not old enough to make this decision. Sometimes mothers over-confide. You have a difficulty maybe relating with the father of this child or some family members, and now you come home, you're frustrated, and you are venting your frustrations to your child who is 10 years old, 11 years old, and you're telling them how their daddy have treated you badly, how your uncles are unfair to you. That information cannot be given wholesome to children because they're not old enough to process it. It's you, the adult, who needs to process what you can tell your children and what you cannot tell them. The second thing I would like to mention is a situation where you find parents, particularly mothers in this case, involving children in inappropriate discussions, allowing them to participate in disputes that are beyond them, or exposing them even to living arrangements that are inappropriate. So for example, on an afternoon, a weekend, a friend of yours comes to visit you at home, and it's a high school buddy, so you have lots of stories to catch up on, talk about their family, their relationship, and maybe this friend is telling you how they're having difficulty in their relationship with their family, with the in-laws, with their spouse, and you're going deeper and deeper into the details of what is happening, and you're oblivious that just next to you is your 10-year-old son listening to you talk negatively about the husband of your friend, and by extension start to say how men are bad and these things are not happening. You are poisoning the mind of this young child by exposing them to inappropriate discussion, by letting them participate in inappropriate disputes for their age. You should just let this child go out and play. Tell them, go out and play with your friends. Sit at a corner and chat with your friend and discuss the details and give each other advice, give each other morale like you should. But you should not do that in front of the children, because you are biasing the mind of this child and you are making them to start form attitudes which are inappropriate for that age, and they are not attitudes they have lived themselves. So they may approach situations with a bias in future, when in fact that situation would better have been approached with no bias, and you do better in that way. I talked about sleeping arrangements, and we've had cases where mothers, for example, are still sleeping in the same bed or in the same room with their near teenage children. You are a single mother, you have a son, maybe you have only one child, a son, and now you're sleeping in the bedroom with your son. Your son is now 10 years, 11 years, even 13. You dress in front of your child, you take a bath, you come and change in front of a child. This is quite inappropriate, because this child's mind is changing. They are entering their adolescents or just their pre-adolescents. So they are starting to see things differently from what they were seeing when they were young. They cannot just see you as their mother when you show your nakedness to them. Now they're starting to see you as a female, and this is inappropriate. Stop doing that. Let your child sleep in another room. If it's a single-roomed house, you can have a curtain to separate your bed from your child. You can dress when your child is out. You can take a shower when your child is out. Go out, I want to dress, I'll call you when I've finished. You don't have to do this in front of your pre-teenage child, because you are poisoning your mind with images, with imaginations that are starting to form in them, and they should not be directed to you as their mother. Okay? Something else. Some mothers, and this is grave, some mothers even go to the extent of behaving towards their children, their sons, like they are their husbands. You lost your husband, or you separated, and now you have this son who you cling to so much because they give you that comfort, they give you that company, they make you feel like your husband is there. But look, this is not your husband, this is your son. So you cannot go behaving with this child using terminologies, giving away things that they should not be receiving because you think you are compensating for the absence of their father. You again are making this child not to be able to grow up and be an independent son. You are creating a mama's boy. This terminology best applies in these scenarios. You are creating a young man who cannot function without their mother. They cling to their mother, they cannot separate, and so when this child goes to school, secondary school, maybe boarding school, they go into employment or they go to the world out there, they are not able to relate well with the world because everything has to find reference to their mother and they cannot make a decision on their own. This becomes a problem later on in life. Some mothers overprovide, overprotect in the name of love. So you have your son who cannot get into any situation you think can make them uncomfortable, even for a minute. Every little thing, are you happy with that? Is that place too cold? Oh, did you step on anything? Did you fall? Oh, is it very painful? Let me see. If they are playing with other children and maybe they get into a disagreement like children often do, and they quarrel, they shout, sometimes they push, they can fight even. You are there, overprotective, you go and storm that meeting of children. The neighbor from where the other child comes, why did your son do this to my son? No, this is not good. But when you look at it, even what you're complaining about is negligible. It can't be seen as anything. It's not an injury. It's just a report that the other child pushed me and I fell. When you look at your son, there's no injury there, okay? But it has made you so worked up. You want to go to the other home, storm there, confront the parents of that child. You are overprotecting your child. You are making this child not to be able to fit into the world out there. Because remember, you will not be there all the time to protect this child. They'll go out, the world is rough. And so, if every little thing that happens, you have to micromanage and make sure it's not causing any hurt to the child, what will happen the day you will not be there? You're going to create a child who is a wimp, a child who cannot stand for anything, against anything, and even a light wind just blows them over. That's not what you want for your child when maybe you are too old to protect them, or you are not in the world, and now they're supposed to be a man running their own family. The same goes with over-providing. Every little thing the child wants, you must provide. Even things that you can ignore, even things that are not necessary, you are providing. The child knows they cannot lack anything. Mama will give this. Mama will give this. Any little one. Did you want this? Is this tea enough? Oh, do you want soda now? Oh, maybe you don't like that flavor. Can we buy you this other flavor? You are over providing for this child, and this is not sustainable because nature does not over provide. When you are not there, they will go to a situation where they can only afford a cup of tea for that time, for that day. They can't get anything else. And so if you have made them to see like, if the tea is not tasting like they thought it should, then it should change immediately to something else, then you are making these children not able to fit into the real world. Some parents, mothers, imagine that their children are special and treat them to be so special without a real cause. Well, all of us as parents, we want to feel our children are special. But that special has to be within some limits. If you feel your child then is just too special, then there must be some reason to back it up. But just a normal child playing with others, going to school, doing what children do, don't treat them like or tell them they are so special, they cannot be pinched. A teacher cannot reprimand them. Another child in the playground cannot push them a little bit. Someone cannot send them to do anything because this child is so special. The question is, why is this child treated like they are so special? Do they have a disease? Maybe they have some special disease where if they did something, they will get so sick. But if that's not the case, then let a child be a child. Let a child go out and interact with others, go to school, play with others. Don't be there all the time making them feel like they are so special, because when they approach the world with that feeling that they are special, there's a discongruence when they get out there and the world does not treat them as special. It treats you just like another human being. And they get out there and they don't know how to react because they are used to being treated like they are special. Everything to them has to be treated with so much tenderness and care, even when there is no validity to it. That makes this child not grow up to be well-adjusted adult. Some parents, lastly, I want to talk about as a sixth and the last point. Some parents replace discipline with appeasement. A child is not behaving well. Perhaps they are uncooperative. There's something you've asked them to do and they don't want to do. They don't want to do homework. They don't want to make their bed. They don't want to take a shower, clean themselves. They are dirtying the house and not arranging. They leave cups. They break things and just litter. And you cannot just tell them, as a form of discipline, I want you to take your shower now. I want you to arrange your room, pick that cup from the table and take it to the kitchen. When auntie calls you and sends you to the shop, please go, don't refuse. You are appeasing them, you are telling them, Daddy, if you pick that cup, you'll be a good boy. I'm going to buy you a toy. Daddy, if auntie sends you and you go, I'll buy you a present. Why are you promising to give presents and to give rewards for just a child doing the normal things children should do? To take a shower every day, you need to buy them a present. To do homework, you need to take them out for a holiday. To be sent around the house and arrange you need to do something. You are appeasing children in the place of enforcing discipline. And take note, I've said in previous videos, discipline and punishment are not the same. Discipline is you insisting that rules have to be followed. You create rules and they have to be followed. So it's an orderly way of living. That's a disciplined way of living. It's not about punishing or pinching or beating. No. So if you cannot discipline your children by just insisting that rules be followed and you want to appease them, then you are creating a situation that is unsustainable. Because later on when they grow up, they think obeying laws, they are above laws. They cannot obey laws of the land if they are not given a reward. But the world doesn't work like that. You get out there, you break the law, the police are not going to come and give you a reward for you not to break a traffic offense. You will be arrested. So by you doing these things, you are making your child not grow up to be an adult who is balanced and able to confront the real world. And if this child then, as they grow up, get introduced to things like alcohol and drugs, they're likely to get lost into these things because they have never had a balanced way of looking at life where they can go left and right, but always gravitating at the center. These are children who are used to having their way. They are never told no. They are used to rewards even when they are not doing anything. They are used to participating in discussions in scenarios that do not apply. So they have built an image about things which they have not lived, they have not experienced, but they have just heard and seen. And so they can't relate and operate in it very well. They end up getting lost when they get introduced to drugs and alcohol. And some of them, when they come to a rehab, we quickly can see that this child had a problem in upbringing. They were spoiled when they were young. They became mama's boy. They are very entitled. They are indisciplined. They cannot follow even simple instructions. And so they have gone into alcoholism or drug abuse thinking like their mother's protection will come and it will protect them from any ills that will happen. But that's not the truth. They have now sunken into drugs. They have broken the law. Their life is messed up. They have been expelled from school. They have dropped out of college because they did not have an anchor as they were growing up. Their parents did not allow them to develop as growing children with a reference point, with an anchor. They were let loose to sail in the wind. And now they are getting to reap the bad side of life from that. Mothers, this is a lesson to you. I would like you to see, and if you see it touches you in one way or another, you can just change by doing the opposite of the things I have mentioned, right from an early age, and sustain them every day. Your child will grow up a stable, balanced young man, loving you as their mother, appreciating you for bringing them up as a single mother, but a child who can fit in the world and will make you a proud family man when they get a family of their own and will not get lost in the vagaries of this world like delinquency, drug abuse, crime, or simply being someone who is, you could say, a failure in life, cannot stand up to anything because they did not get the skills, and it's like their mother was going to be there every day for them, but that did not happen. Thank you and see you again in another video of Dr. BMS.